Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Pinstripe Prospects Podcast. We are back. We took a week, but we have so much news to cover here in episode 14. That's an action-packed episode this week. I'm Ricky Keeler. Glad to have you back. We hope you're all staying safe as we all try to get through this coronavirus pandemic together. We have an action-packed show here. We're going to get into the MLB Draft now at 5 rounds. So much to dive into with that, what it means for the Yankees, who now only have 3 picks. We'll get into some of our MLB Draft coverage that we have prepared for you over the next month in that segment. And then we'll look at the MLB restart plan. The owners approved it. The players, not so much. But should they approve it? We'll talk about that. Later, I'm going to get into our participation we did in the Prospects Live MLB Mock Draft. And we'll talk about a bunch of other things as well. We want to remind you can tweet us on Twitter at Pinstripe Pros. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. We want to hear from you. Give us a rating. We hope it's 5 stars, but we want to know what segments you want us to talk about, what topics, any guests you want us to have on. We're happy to hear from you. You can email me as well, rickjkeeler@gmail.com. You can subscribe again. We have it on Spotify. Anywhere you find your podcast, chances are the Pinstripe Prospects podcast is there for you. We're getting to some cool things we have on the website in a little bit. Let me bring in my guests for the evening. First, we have the founder of Pinstripe Prospects, Rob Pimpster. Rob, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. And James O'Connell is here. James, how you doing?
Hanging in there, as always. How about you, Ricky? Hanging in there?
Hanging in there. How'd your golf game go these last 2 weeks?
I've lost it. I don't know. I just can't seem to find it anymore. I don't know what's happened to my game. I can't hit a fairway to save my life. I can't really do much of anything.
Well, I mean, it's easy to socially distance if you hit your balls not straight. So.
Yeah, no, I haven't. The only problem is I've been socially distant. I haven't really been socially distancing because if I'm on the 7th hole, my drive's been so bad. I've been golfing with people on the 8th hole to the right. I have not been playing golf. I've been hitting other fairways. I don't know what. It's just hopefully my game comes back to me at some point. I think it will. I'm positive about it.
So let's get into some of the big topics we have. We got so much to get into, so let's dive right in. Let's start with some of the news that occurred last week. Kylie McDaniel and Jeff Passan from ESPN were on this story and JJ Cooper from Baseball America, I think, was on it too, that the MLB draft that will take place next month is the worst case scenario. It is a 5-round draft. And the Yankees, because of signing Garrett Cole, lost their 2nd and 5th round picks, so they only have 3 picks in this year's draft. Now, you can sign as many players as you want for up to $20,000. We're going to get into the particulars in that in a little bit. We'll hopefully over the next month also get some draft insiders on the show to sort of preview the class, and maybe we'll dive into more of those particulars at that time as well. But, Rob, let me start with you because you're one of our big amateur guys. So your thoughts on this 5-round proposal and now what it means for the Yankees, who now only have really 3 picks. I don't really know if they can really go for broke here. To me, I think you just play it safe and try to take guys with the highest floor possible.
Well, for the Yankees are a team that actually has a lot of players under contract, so they don't need to draft a lot of people to fill out rosters. That's if the minor league baseball season happens in 2020, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But I am not a fan of a 5-round MLB draft. This is not like the NFL draft or the NBA draft where these guys can be plugged into the major league roster right away. These are guys that toil in the minors for a long time, and a lot of them do not make it. And that's one of the reasons why the MLB draft is so big. It takes a lot of time for these players to develop. It is not like they're going to be ready right away. They're a year away. A lot of these guys are 4 or 5 years away. And having so little people in the draft eligible is going to be a huge hit to the talent pool. It's signaling to players, don't even bother taking up the sport. You're not worth our time. We'd rather save $1 million or $2 million or whatever it is and discourage people from playing the sport because we're short-sighted, and that's the message the owners are sending. I get that the owners are going to be hurt for money this year, and my heart cries from the fucking billionaires hurt for money. But come on, it is the worst case scenario for the sport of baseball right now, and it is just horrible.
It's like Ken Rosenthal from The Athletic was saying, I think last week he tweeted, somebody said in the article he wrote, like, they're telling you basically don't take up baseball. And I think that's the last thing we talked about it a couple weeks ago, the minor league plan that basically says, well, these towns that rely solely on minor league baseball as their lone professional sport, now you won't be able to watch them because we're going to take away your team. Now they want to take away players from getting drafted. I mean, the 10-round proposal they made up was stupid, where like you're going to have half your bonus pool was going to be rounds 1 through 5, and then the other half was going to be 6 through 10. That's pointless. Like, just make it your whole 10-round bonus pool. Like, I don't see how that was so hard for them. I get it. You're crying that you're not going to have a lot of money, but I don't see how that was so difficult.
And when you look at it, minor league baseball and the draft and developing players internally is the cheapest way of acquiring talent there is. For every $1 million spent on the draft, you're getting like $20 million in return as a Major League Baseball team. So why aren't you beefing up the draft and going all out on it? To me, it's very short-sighted. It is done by people who do not understand baseball, and unfortunately, a lot of those people are now owners and in front offices for some reason.
James, what's your take on this MLB draft going to 5 rounds this year?
You know, from a team standpoint for the Yankees, I'm not really, like, if we're just talking team aspect, I'm not really all that concerned. Everyone's in the same boat, obviously. Unfortunate circumstances, but I do feel for, the draftees and the minor league ball players and everyone that kind of will be affected by the minor league organizations. It's a sad situation for sure. But the Yankees as a major league club will survive, but unfortunately, I don't know what's going to go on with the minor league clubs. This is a big hit for them.
Now, the one way it helps the Yankees, Rob, I know you'll get into this, is you can sign as many players that you want after 5 rounds up to $20,000. And I think if you're the Yankees, and this is where you can take advantage of, hey, I'll sign with you because my favorite team was the Yankees and I want to be a Yankee. Or you maybe get a package deal where you take a guy in the 4th round and then you take his teammate for $20,000, which is partially what I've read from some other places. So this is where the Yankees, they could take advantage of their brand and being the Yankees and still having a good class despite having a limited amount of picks.
Well, here's the thing. Those 10th, 11th round guys, and even further, you were able to sign up to a $125,000 bonus without it affecting the bonus pool.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going from potentially 6 figures to $20,000, and $20,000 in the long run is nothing. Minor league baseball players do not make a lot of money. This is well known. This has been highly publicized. They are taken advantage of by the major league teams, by these owners. That is why, this whole thing just pushes people away from wanting to play the sport. And when it comes down to it, yeah, the Yankees could load up on guys that are $20,000, etc. But I don't see a lot of guys wanting to sign for that much, especially when NCAA is giving guys an extra year of eligibility. High school guys will definitely go to college rather than sign outright, because it always took a lot of money to sign those high school guys, even in the later rounds. So this is just something that is really bad for the sport in general, because it tells people to just stop playing the game. You're not even worth their time investing in you.
Just back to your point, Ricky, about signing, potentially a player because their favorite team is the Yankees. They could use their brand. Well, they do that in international free agency every year, and it's pretty successful for them. So it's maybe this isn't the worst case scenario for them as an organization. They can take advantage of it slightly,
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think also it comes down to, I think one of the unforeseen consequences, and again, we don't know if they're going to play this year or not, but one of the things I thought of, if it doesn't happen, is could teams with the with bad records from the past year take advantage of not playing this year? Because I kind of wonder this: if I'm the Detroit Tigers or I'm the Baltimore Orioles, and if the MLB draft order stays the same next year, do I even want to play? Because then if I'm the Tigers, I could get a Kumar Rock or even a Jack Leiter to pair with a Casey Mize. And we talk about how in the NBA where you can tank and get the better prospect, albeit it's a direct impact in the NBA. I kind of wonder if this is an unforeseen consequence. Maybe some of these owners, I know they all agreed to that restart plan, which we'll get into, but I wonder if I'm like a team that's kind of in rebuild mode. Do I even want to play and I can get another high draft pick anyway?
Yeah, I mean, in reality, do the Orioles really want to play anyway? I mean, they're like 3 to 4 years away, regardless. I mean, they're going to be picking the top of the drafts for the next 4 years, probably. I think that's being kind. But those teams that are I feel like the Orioles are the only one that's just so far away with absolutely zero pieces for the future, for the most part, where you could say like they will be in that spot kind of forever. The Tigers at least have some pieces, like a little bit, like at least something there to get fans excited. So I think regardless of the situation, the Orioles are going to be picking in the top 5 of the draft or top 3 of the draft, or maybe number 1 in the draft for the next like 5 years.
I don't know about 5, but it's
dude, they're bad.
They're bad. All right, maybe not number. They're not going to be a Strasburg Harper where they take. I don't think they'll go down that route. I mean, Detroit's not that good either, but
no, but they at least have some sort of talent. I would.
They got pitching talent. They don't really have a lot of hitting talent.
And can you point to one direction where the Orioles are talented in any aspect of their game?
No,
not really.
Right. Okay.
The Yankees have a much stronger farm system than the Orioles, and
which is scary.
But I was just crunching numbers and taking a look. Last year in the MLB Draft, after the 10th round of last year's MLB Draft, the Yankees spent $1.687 million on signing bonuses for several players. Most of those players were maxed out at the 125 max. If you add in what they spent on rounds 6 through 10 last year, the Yankees spent $2.3 million after the 5th round of the draft. So that is a huge amount of money that they spent on the draft last year, and that's still giving guys relatively cheap signing bonuses. The guys that make the large signing bonuses are the first and second rounders. After that, everything is in the mid to high 6 figures, going down steeply. You get those guys that are college seniors that sign for $10,000, but that's because they're college seniors. They have no leverage. If you have any amount of leverage, if you're a junior or something like that, you're getting 6 figures in a normal year, and this year that is just taken away. And if you're in playing minor league baseball, that signing bonus is a huge thing. That's what you're living on for at least 2 years, and it's just like I said, it's just bad for baseball. For Yankees specific, I think this hurts the Yankees because they only have three picks, which mind boggles me. The Yankees are being hit harder by this than any other team, especially like the Astros or the Red Sox, who were caught cheating and everything. But the Yankees are getting punished more for actually attempting to win within the rules. And this just screams to me, this whole thing between the draft and the minor league contraction is just those smaller market teams, those teams like the Astros, those teams like the Orioles, those teams that drink the Kool-Aid that they know better than any other team when it comes to drafting and developing players and everything. They can do it cheaper because they're run by finance bros, are really hurting the game, and they're really out for the Yankees, who have the financial might to do whatever they want. They could do the most advanced technology, most advanced player development, and spend a lot of money on acquiring players to get the most out of that. And to me, this is just really going after teams like the Yankees that are willing to put the money in. And there's other teams that are willing to do it too, like the Reds. The Reds are in the exact same boat. They're pretty advanced when it comes to their player development, and they put the money into a draft to acquire players, and they put the money in to have extra affiliates for these players to play.
Before we move on to the restart plan, I think, and as I said, we'll try to get on a couple different draft insiders to preview the class, both from the prep side, which we don't expect a lot of players, but we'll dive into it with the college class as well. To me, Rob, I think this draft just speaks, take college players and see where they end up. I mean, we've looked at a couple of players on the website already. Daniel Cabrera, an outfielder from LSU, Tanner Burns, whose stock is actually going up, the right-hander out of Auburn. It kind of fits where the Yankees, I think, might want to go, where they have all this lower international talent. Maybe they take a college player in the first round and see how far he can rise up. Maybe try to get a guy that in the latter part of the first round that It has some value for them.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees could take full advantage of it. They have a lot of stuff they can market to these guys if they want to sign for $20K, but I don't see a lot of guys wanting to sign for $20K when they see what minor league baseball life is like, even with the proposed new salaries in 2021.
Well, I'm talking about with their first round pick, like going mainly a college player in the 28th pick rather than a prep player, because you have a better chance to sign the college player in the first round.
Oh, 100%. When it comes down to it, this is going to be very college heavy. I would honestly, if I was a team, I probably wouldn't even draft any high school guy, no matter what, because that extra 2, 3, 4 years in college is huge when it comes to developing a player. How many times have you seen a guy that's not even on the radar in high school become a standout college player and become a high draft pick? You know, that actually 4 years, up to 4 years development time is huge and saves teams a lot of money. That's why a lot of teams do draft college heavy, because you get a lot of talent and you save a lot of money. And I think that's what the changes in this draft, the changes proposed by MLB for the future, is going to be heavily reliant on college and NCAA.
So definitely, like I said, we'll have more of an inside story to the draft over the next month. We'll try to get some insiders on for you to talk about it. Like I mentioned, we do have some draft profiles already up on the website. Our team that works on the draft is assembling together. We're going to try to get as many players up on the site as possible. Like I mentioned, we have Tanner Burns, a right-hander from Auburn, who has a really high floor. Somebody to keep an eye on. He could be a like a mid-range starter, but had some really good numbers at Auburn. I think in his freshman year was right up there with Casey Mize. So keep an eye on him. The Yankees did draft him in the later rounds a couple years ago. So that could be another strategy the Yankees go to, where they drafted a guy late a few years ago that, hey, they've already done the homework on. They kind of know the kind of player they're getting. And keep an eye on Daniel Cabrera, an outfielder from LSU. The Yankees took infielder Josh Smith early last year, so they've seen some of LSU's games. Cabrera's another low-floor kind of guy, good average hitter, gap power as well. So I keep an eye on him, but we'll have plenty of other profiles on the website. We'll try to dive into those over the next month or so. We want to remind you that over at Pinstripe Prospects, we have our Dugout membership program where you can get scouting reports, player interviews, features, and much more in addition to our major league coverage. You can sign up for our Dugout membership program for either $7 a month or $63 a year. You can also use the promo code I Miss Baseball, because we still all miss baseball, and you get your first 30 days free. So if you're not sure, check it out. Give us a try. You get a free month out of it. So definitely take a look. We also, if you go to belowthecollar.com, we have some T-shirts. So if you want to support the Pinstripe Prospects brand, we have some cool T-shirts. We got a logo T-shirt, a podcast logo T-shirt, and another logo T-shirt as well. So a bunch of different shirts for you that goes to help us as well. So if you're looking to get some new apparel, we got that too. So be sure to check that again, belowthecollar.com/Pinstripe Pros, I believe it is. So you can definitely check out some of those cool T-shirts. So let's dive into the MLB restart plan. We mentioned it earlier. If you're listening to this the next day on Tuesday, the MLB owners and the Players Association met. Couldn't come to agreement on anything. They didn't talk a lot of economics. So that'll be in the works. In case you've missed it, the owner's plan is an 82-game season, a 30-man roster, a 20-man taxi squad, a universal designated hitter, 14-team postseason where the top seed gets a bye, and there's a 50-50 revenue split. And it sounds like the players obviously don't want to agree to that. Again, the players previously agreed to take a prorated salary, but now MLB, the owners want them to take less than a prorated salary.
That's a dumb move by the owners. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. I mean, you've already agreed to give them X amount of money. You can't now ask them, okay, now just because you should have known in my mind you were going to play without fans when you agreed to give them the prorated money. Now that you all of a sudden, oh, wait, we're going to play without fans in home ballparks? Oh, yeah, now I want you to take less money. Meanwhile, we still don't know what their testing plan is. I mean, I'm sure that'll get revealed in due time. To me, hearing Mark Teixeira on Get Up today saying, oh, this is the time where the Players Union shouldn't make a big deal about money. Come on, Mark. And Mark Teixeira is one of my favorite players. I've talked about on the show. That's a weak move. Anybody,
you don't want
whoever wants to dive
set the precedent.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to set the precedent. Major League Baseball was not keen on bringing the players in when they were making record profits for a decade plus. Just play them what they're owed and move on.
I don't see what the harm is, James, with giving them taking. They already agreed to take the prorated salary for the 82 games. I mean, they're already taking less money to play. I mean, I'm sorry if it's going to take away money from you, but if the goal is to play, don't make it seem like the players now are at fault, which is now I think everybody who saw the Illinois governor make it seem like the players are at fault for not wanting to play, which is what the owners want it to be. They want it to be where we wanted to play, we put a proposal on the table, and now the players don't want to play. No, sorry, it's more the owners don't want to give the players what they want. They want to use, like Tony Clark kind of said, they want to use this as sort of a way to change things the way they want it with looks like a salary cap to me. And that's not going to fly.
Yeah, and to me, it's not the owners that are taking the risk, their health in their arms. It's the players with underlying conditions. This is going to be very dangerous for them to play. So the owners need to suck it up and do what they agreed to do. Stop trying to nickel and dime everyone, because when it comes down, you're just going to hurt the sport. You're going to hurt your place in negotiating. You're going to cause a lockout, which is going to cause everyone to stop watching baseball. This is the biggest problem. Is it's short-sighted over money issues instead of, hey, we're billionaires. We could suck it up for 1 year and just do what's best to grow the game and keep everyone going. They got to get their minds right when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and just going back to what Mark Teixeira said, I feel like that was kind of a low blow there. Like that players shouldn't really worry about money at this stage. I mean, come on, Mark. That is tough. And like you said, Rick, Teixeira was my favorite player. Kind of disappointing to see him not have the backs of his fellow players there. That was really tough.
And if you're not following Sean Doolittle on Twitter, and let's be honest, you should. He's great. He had a great long thread on Monday about it. And one of the things in the last case he said is hopefully these concerns will be addressed. What's the plan to ethically acquire enough tests? What's the protocol if a player, staff member, or worker contracts the virus? We want to play, and we want everyone to stay safe. The fact that we don't know what the plans are right now, everything else has leaked for the economics. What about the health plans? Like, at least we should have an idea by now. If you're close to resuming play, what's the health plan? Because to me, we've talked about on the show over the last couple of weeks, this reeks of MLB being desperate to play because they're worried that they're going to be placed in this echelon of hockey where it's a niche sport and they're not going to be what football and basketball are anymore.
I don't think they're worried about that because every move they make is get fans away from the game. So I don't think they're worried about it becoming a niche sport. I think they're pushing it because they're nickel and diming everything. But back to the point you were making about the health and the plan. Major League Baseball hasn't put anything forward in regards to that. And if they want to move forward with this, they need to do something with. I'm going to bring, because I'm a big wrestling fan, to what All Elite Wrestling has been doing on when they do their TV tapings. Everyone, whether it was a wrestler, a color commentator, a stagehand, everyone that entered the building had to go through a screening as well as be tested every day. So no matter what, that's a lot of tests. They had to do probably at least 100 tests a day to do that. So Major League Baseball is going to have to do something similar. If you're going to have 50 players on both teams, so that's 100 tests, plus the camera guys, plus the guys running the stadium, everything. You're looking at maybe 150 to 200 tests per game. You have 15 games going on. That's a lot of tests. Is there enough to do that? And I don't know if there is.
Yeah, I mean, also, what does this kind of mean for the media? Are they testing the media as well? Because that's a lot of testing. As media writers and reporters, is that going to be just remote for the whole season? I don't know.
My guess is you look at, I was seeing today with NASCAR, like they might pick and choose like a select number of broadcast media members to be at the game, you might honestly see broadcasters do it remote, and then you conduct post-game interviews on Zoom.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
you could do that. You could have a setup
traditional here.
headsets. But the media would have to be tested too. What's the point of testing the players and the people working there if the media doesn't get tested if they're going to the game?
Yeah,
exactly. So there's a lot of healthcare plans that they have to look into. Let's dive into the logistics of this plan. And one of the first things I thought of are 82 games enough to determine a true champion? I'm not sure.
You know what? I was kind of hoping we were gonna go with the 100 game kind of proposal here, but it's just not looking that way. I don't really see this. I really don't want. I don't know, man. I feel so indifferent about this. If the Yankees win this World Series, which kind of I expected them to do. I know it's a hard thing to say, but if they do, it just won't feel right. You know what I mean? Like it just won't have that same feeling. 80 game season, botched divisions. I don't even know what's gonna go on with divisions. I don't really know how interested I am in this season as a whole here. This whole setup they have going on. It's one of the least interesting things I've really seen with. Well, I mean, in terms of intrigue, like I'm interested how it's going to work out, but it doesn't sound all that fun to me. An 80 game season and all these weird divisions. It's just I hate to say it, I almost wish they just scrap this thing. I know baseball might not be able to survive with it. I don't know. It's just something about it just doesn't feel right.
Well, I think 82 games is what they were talking about. I think you could probably squeeze out some more games if you do weekly doubleheaders, or if you do twice weekly doubleheaders, you could get closer to that 100 game number. But when it comes down to it, Ricky, you and I come from covering short season baseball, which is a 76 game season, and I think that's plenty of time. It's a grind and everything, and players break down and everything. It's still in a 76 game season, so playing 82 games is not necessarily that bad. Yeah, it's not as much as 162, but I don't think the number of games is really going to matter much. I think what they need to do is just get playing, and they need the owners to get their heads out of their asses and stop nickel and diming. Because once they play, you'll still be in public consciousness. Yeah, and that's, I think, the most important part when it comes down to it. But, like you said, you have an asterisk next to this year where, it was an 82-game season. You look at the strike years, how many games did they play in those seasons?
I think 81 was split season, like first half, second half, and 95 I think they played after April. So I don't know the exact number offhand on that. I mean, if that comes up anytime during the end of this, we'll definitely get into that. But it is more, you have to treat it, I think, as more of a sprint than a marathon. Like, let's say you have 82 games, like you would get, doing the rough math, maybe 15 starts from Garrett Cole. So you have to kind of treat it as, you got to go all in from the gate, get off to a great start. Because you get off to a horrible start, your season's in trouble. And you also, I think, have the indication where you have it where spring training be around June 10th, regular season, they want it to be around July 4th for some, I guess, symbolic thing, if you will. But one of the things I think to look at the universal DH, to me, I love it. I get the entertainment of pitchers hitting. I don't like it. I'd rather them be the DH anyway. You pay the pitchers enough money, they're going to get hurt swinging a bat. That's always been my take on it. But one of the interesting things is also the taxi squad idea. And I know, Rob, you wanted to talk about the taxi squad because with minor league baseball, I know the AA Binghamton Rumble Ponies said that there was no minor league baseball until at least June 15th. I'm intrigued by the taxi squad idea because who do they take and how does it either help or hurt their development in the process? Because you would likely have maybe just the taxi squad and then maybe complex ball. So there's going to be a really interesting dynamic of who gets on that 20-man taxi squad and who doesn't.
What it comes down to is the proposal. Just the proposal of that taxi squad to me signifies that they're not expecting to play a traditional minor league season. And by traditional minor league season, I mean them sending players out to their affiliates. So if that's the case, I'd rather they come out sooner rather than later. And that's going to hurt a lot of these minor league baseball teams that, let's face it, are either just breaking even or are in the red every year. There's a lot of minor league teams that are like that. But, when it comes down to it, I'd rather just tell them now and get it over with than draw it out so that they have a week to plan. But if you look at it, basically, if it was me playing it, I would have that taxi squad essentially be whoever you were going to plan to have in your AAA team. These are the guys that are either major league vets that you sign that are ready to play and can fill in, or guys that are on the cups of making their major league debut. So I think that taxi squad should 100% be, essentially who is in your AAA. So that does not necessarily equate who is on the 40-man, because, the Yankees have a lot of guys on their 40-man roster that were either going to be in high A or double A. So I would make that rule that, it doesn't matter about the 40-man roster. I would just have it be the guys that were essentially in AAA so that they can help out the team right away.
Yeah, because you essentially have if you have the 30-man roster, you're essentially taking the bulk of your 40-man anyway. So you basically could take down the high A, double A guys that you have and just add in new names in there while you let the high A players that you have in the 40-man still develop in the complex league, because you're going to play baseball in Florida. I mean, we saw UFC in Florida, so we're going to play ball. I know Arizona for the Cactus League teams and things like that. I know they said you could play professional sports in Arizona now. So you at least get those complex leagues, and that's where these players will at least able to develop and play ball if there is no affiliates anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the taxi squad, they're going to be with the major league team, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever the major league team goes, they'll be traveling with them. And you have guys that are in the lower levels of the minors, the Class A, Double A, and all those guys. Maybe a select few of them, not all of them. You could have them in the complex, the minor league baseball complexes. The Yankees themselves usually have about 175 to 200 players in minor league spring training. So it's doable. But I just don't see that happening. They'll probably have like a bunch of mini camps and stuff like that, an extended instructional league. But it's a lot of it's going to depend on what happens at the major league level, and you never know.
And I kind of like the idea. I mean, at least from the Yankees' perspective, if they only play East teams, which it sounds like they'll play mostly the division, and then play like the Mets, the Phillies, the Nationals, so they don't have to travel that far. I mean, looking at it from a competitive perspective, I mean, the NL East is a tough division, but I mean, the Yankees, you're only dealing with a Chris Sale-less Red Sox team. We talked about the Rays, and really your threats in the National League are probably two teams. I mean, Nationals and Braves. I mean, Mets are up there, Phillies are up there. We've looked at different plans. So with this being the plan where you're playing mostly the division and then playing the opposite division, it still kind of works in the Yankees' favor in a way, because they still should, I think, win the division regardless of adding teams like Washington, Atlanta. I mean, I think the team you worry about in those taxi squads probably be Atlanta, because they got a loaded farm system, and Tampa Bay, because I would think Wander Franco was on their taxi squad. I could be wrong, but I think that has to be the case.
As far as division goes, I really don't think, regardless of who you throw in that division, the Yankees are the best team in baseball, unless you could somehow muster the Yankees and Dodgers in the same division. I don't know. But just going back to the overall look at this proposal, I am excited for the universal DH. I think that's going to be a great touch, long overdue. And I think this could be an excuse to implement this kind of permanently for both leagues.
100% it should be. I agree with you guys.
That's where I'm at with that.
We need it. It's been long overdue. Like I said, I don't want to watch Max Scherzer getting paid $200 and something million get hurt swinging a bat. You can't get hurt, throw a pitch. That's you're paid to pitch. You're not paid to hit. I think I saw a news story like the Yankees physician Dr. Ahmad worries if there's going to be more Tommy John surgeries after this. So that's another interesting storyline to follow once we do get back to playing. I also like the 14-team playoff because this is basically the proposal they made a few months ago, minus the whole let's pick who we play thing. I'm okay with adding an extra team if the top record gets a bye. It's more incentive to get the number 1 seed, which I think helps. And I'm not doing a crazy selection show where I'm picking who I'm playing. If you want to add 4 extra teams and do it that way, I'm okay with it.
You know what I'm curious about, kind of with these divisions? So is there? So the Mets would be in the Yankees division, correct?
Yes.
So does that mean there could be a divisional series of the Mets and the Yankees in playoffs? Is that how that would work?
From what I understand, I think it's like the top seed gets a bye, and then it's like I think is it 7 teams per league?
Right.
So you would have 2 place set.
What league? You know, is there a league? It's just.
I think it's just the 3. It's the East, the Central, and the West. I think it's really just 3 super divisions, if you will.
So how are they going to? I'm confused how they're going to do this. I guess 4 teams from each of the 3, and then 2 wild cards. I guess.
Pretty much, yeah. Basically taking the top two teams from each division plus the highest 3rd place team, I would think.
Yeah, that's confusing. I don't know how they figured it out.
so much to figure out. It's
what people aren't really talking much about is that these, aligning the divisions by East Coast, West Coast, you're saving a shit ton of money on travel.
Mm-hmm.
So the owners are saving a shit ton of money on travel. They're saving a shit ton of money on not having all these employees in the ballpark every day. So I honestly, when it comes down to it, I would love to see the amount of money they make from television contracts and everything, and the amount of money they're spending on players and the core personnel that they have to have in the stadium. What is really the profit loss and profit margin there? Because until Major League Baseball teams man up and show their books, we're never going to know. And the fact that they don't do that for the Players Association, who they're actively negotiating with, and they're claiming poverty for this year, they need to do it. They need to open their books. And if it shows that owners are making more money than they're saying, well, there's a problem there.
So what I'm reading it's not a set format. It just would be adding 2 extra wild card teams. So again, I don't even think they know how the postseason would line up, but I'm okay with it being like the top 2 from each thing. But that's up to them to figure out. The last one I wanted to bring up with this topic, and it's something I've thought about as a sports fan. We've all waited for sports to come back, and it's been 2 months now. I know UFC came back, but I'm not a huge UFC fan, so I wasn't going to watch anyway. But one thing I thought about with the no fans in baseball this year, how long until I feel like we're going to enjoy it the first week because it's back, and then I'm going to watch 2 weeks later and I'm going to be sad.
I don't think there's going to be an instance where I do enjoy it. I'm telling you, I feel completely chinsed out by this. I don't, even when we're watching the games, like the first game in an empty stadium, I'm not going to be having all that much fun. Because you want to hear the roar of Yankee Stadium. That's like a big, big part of why I love the game, is the crowd. And with no crowd, I mean, what is it? It's another pick up little league game on your local fields with nobody watching, just out there playing baseball. One would argue that's baseball in its purest form and whatnot. This and that. Just, it's going to be tough without the fans, man. It's going to be a tough watch, I think. But the baseball fanatics, baseball lunatics out there are watching the KBO with no fans there. So I don't know how many. I don't really think they can lose any diehard baseball fans. I for sure will be watching no matter what. But it's just not going to feel right without the fans.
I think there's stuff you could do to lessen that impact. But I think I'm going to bring this back to professional wrestling because I think what All Elite Wrestling is doing is a good example of they've changed their presentation because of having no fans, and I don't know how big of a wrestling fans you guys are, if you are at all. But when it comes to professional wrestling, the fan is a character in itself. The fans in attendance are a big part of that experience. So without the fans in attendance, a lot of the stuff a lot of these wrestling companies are doing is just falling flat and is just plain boring because there's no one there to actually react. And what All Elite Wrestling has done is completely changed how they presented the game. You know, they've presented their form of entertainment. You know, they from having wrestlers sit out in the stands instead of sitting in the back, from having better mics and showcasing what people are saying in the middle of a match and stuff like that. You know, maybe Major League Baseball could do something similar. You know, have mic'd up players, have all this other stuff set up so that you can hear more what's actually going on, and you know, maybe a little bit of trash talking. Maybe you have you know, instead of the guys sitting in the back, you have the guys sitting out in the stands and stuff like that, because there's plenty of room to social distance in the stands. You know, maybe instead of having the guys in the bullpen, they're out in the stands cheering their guys on. We know baseball players themselves can be loud. You know, I've sat in many empty stadiums at the minor league level where the energy is coming from the players in the dugout. We know that they can do it. So I think there's something that could be done there presentation-wise. You just have to get creative. I don't know if I trust Major League Baseball owners to be creative, because we can tell they're only creative in one thing, and that's cutting costs.
Well, that's also the idea you brought up, I think, was part of the Arizona plan, where they're going to have the players kind of sit in the stands as opposed to being in the dugout. So you have that social distancing aspect if that is the case. But here's the other thing where you have to change the presentation. Another thing the players would have to agree on. Do you mic them up? That would probably be something they would the owners and the commissioner would want them to do for the TV presentation. I don't know if players want to be mic'd up if you're doing an 82-game season. Every game basically matters.
I think you almost have to mic them up. I really do, because there's not. You have to do something, right? Like, you can't
God forbid the players show personality.
Yeah, yeah. You have to mic them up, and not throughout the entire game. That would probably be a bit much, but you have to, because there's going to be no entertainment factor, really. I guess the game itself, if you want to argue that, but you always need that outside extra factor, at least to distract from there's no fans. I would definitely like to see these players get mic'd up. I think that might combat a lot of issues here.
I think one of the other things that people are not talking about in regards to these games, no fans and everything, is the announcing. And I know we've talked a little bit about this before, that, you know, a lot of baseball announcers are dull and boring, and it's the truth. So when you have no fans at the game, you need exciting announcers. You need guys that are having fun and enjoying the game and that can express that. You don't need the guy that's sitting there monotone and just putting everyone to sleep. And I think that's a big part of presentation that needs to change when it comes to no fans in attendance. And if they're constantly going to complain about the game, do not have them on the broadcast.
Well, that's the thing too. But plus, you have to worry if the broadcast. Like, I think that's where the broadcast was going to be in a remote location. I don't know how many games they're actually going to be in the stadium for too. They're probably going to broadcast it from a monitor, I would think, right?
Oh, they always broadcast from a monitor,
but not in the stadium.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying, like, I don't think in this plan they're going to be at the stadium.
Oh, well, I mean, it's possible. You got to remember, the further away they are, the more likely of a delay.
Mm-hmm.
Typical games are only like a 7-second delay.
Yeah.
So if they're recording from a remote situation, a remote place, like say they're in studio, you're probably looking at a 20 or 30-second delay.
Mm-hmm. Just so many questions that have left to be unanswered, and hopefully when we come back here next week, a lot of those questions are going to be answered. A lot of arguments will still be had. A lot of through the media fighting between the owners and the Players Association. But hey, we've come to get used to it. So if you're mad about them fighting, get over it. It's going to happen. Jeff Passan said on ESPN Monday, it's going to be an ugly week. We don't need people coming out with hot takes saying that the players are at fault, the owners are at fault. Look, if we get no baseball, everybody's at fault in some way, shape, or form. But this is going to be an ugly week, and hopefully next week we have some kind of solution, but it's not going to get any prettier anytime soon.
Oh, 100%. It's not going to be prettier.
So as we get into our final thoughts for the week, I know I have a few I'm going to bring up, but I'm going to open up to you guys. Any final thoughts, something you want to talk about in baseball that you've seen this week that we haven't gotten to yet?
Rob, want to go ahead? I never have much.
I just want to touch a little bit about on the minor league baseball season and the contraction, and when it comes down to it, I'm not a fan of the whole contraction plan from Major League Baseball. Granted, it would be cheaper for me to cover 4 teams versus 9 covering the Yankees organization. But when it comes down to it, I think it's just bad for the sport. I think it's bad for player development. I don't think there's a lot of guys that are ready to jump from complex ball to full season ball. I think you need a stop in between. And I just think, again, Major League Baseball's plan is just very short-sighted. And they need to wake up and see, hey, we're doing more to hurt the game. We don't know what we're talking about. We need to start listening to player development people. We need to start listening to fans. And we need to start doing stuff that promotes the game. Or otherwise, we're in 5-10 years, we're not going to have a sport. We're not going to be making billions of dollars. We're going to be losing billions of dollars because of our own short-sightedness.
Definitely some good points there. I want to bring up a couple of topics, and I'll bring up some cool things we're doing on the site as well. One of the things I'm sad about is the World Baseball Classic next year canceled. I know a lot of people make fun of the World Baseball Classic that takes place before the season, how many people actually legit are going to play. But I enjoy it. I love the international competition when the USA plays the Dominican Republic, when they play Puerto Rico, Mexico. It brings out, I think, a lot of fun and a lot of flair into the game. And one of the things I noticed this week, Bryce Harper was on with Jared Krabus and Dallas Braden on Starting Nine, which I think is, I have to look up what, I think it's a podcast. And he said that the Major League Baseball players should play in the Olympics. And remember, the Olympics are next year. I for one, I'm okay with that. I know baseball probably isn't, but I mean, if we're not going to have the World Baseball Classic, I don't get why we can't have the top players in the Olympics. I think that it's pretty cool already. We have kind of the top prospects in there. I would love to see these guys get to play in the Olympics for a couple weeks. That'd be a lot of fun.
I would love it too, but I understand not wanting to pause the baseball season for a couple of weeks to do it.
Yeah, that would be the tough part.
And following up on your point on the World Baseball Classic, that was like a shocker, kind of out of nowhere. That's in 2021. I didn't expect that, and I was looking forward to that. I remember, what was it? 2016 was the last one, right? Or 2017?
2017, yeah.
That was fun.
The whole point of the World Baseball Classic, they started the World Baseball Classic was because baseball was not going to be in the Olympics anymore.
Right.
And one of the things I do like about the World Baseball Classic is the atmosphere of those games. It sort of reminds me more of the Dominican Winter League games than the Major League Baseball games, which I find are a lot more entertaining because just the atmosphere they foster, and I think Major League Baseball can learn a lot from that.
It sounded like this was about the time where a lot of players saw from the last one, and a lot of players wanted to play in this one coming up that was going to happen as opposed to 4 years ago. It sounded like more of the top stars for the United States were interested in playing this time.
Well, I understand why they did it. I think with the pandemic and everything.
Oh, yeah, of course. But I'm saying, I think now the interest is better than it was when this idea started. Now, yeah. The Mike Trouts the Garrett Coles will want to play.
Yeah. I mean, them pushing back the Olympics a year is a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the baseball was returning to the Olympics this year, and since they pushed back the Olympics a year, I think that's a very good reason to not do the World Baseball Classic.
Definitely, I know you guys have brought up. I watched a little bit of the Korean Baseball League. I know Matt Terrell had an article about what to watch on the Chinese League, which I think has fans now, which is pretty interesting. I've tried to. I know the broadcasts have been okay, except when ESPN leaks Trevor Bauer's phone number. But besides that, it's an interesting brand of baseball. But I'm not going to do a Korean Baseball Fantasy League or bet it on DraftKings or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really watched many of the Korean baseball league just because of timing, and I've honestly been using this time to work on other projects that I've been putting off.
Hmm.
So I've kind of stepped away from the baseball world a little bit. But I'm on Baseball Purist where I can watch any game, whether it's the Dominican Winter League, whether it's the Venezuelan League, Mexican League, etc. So I'm sure I would enjoy the Korean Baseball League, which is comparative to like AAA a little bit, and um, I think it's a good quality baseball. I think they were very creative with the cardboard cutouts. I think that was a great idea. But when it comes down to it, it's not Major League Baseball. It's not the same. And I think a lot of people are viewing it in that lens. That's just not the same as Major League Baseball. I think it's great to have live sports, though. I think that's one of the reasons it's pushing MLB to try to start as quickly as possible.
So we keep you up to date. A couple of things that we're working on the site, and one of the things that the site was a part of. We obviously we're in here the last 2 weeks ago. We mentioned that we were taking part in a live MLB mock draft, which we did over at Prospects Live, which they put on. They did a fantastic job. I mean, it was hard to get. They had a representative from all 30 teams, all the top amateur baseball minds, people from Perfect Game, people from Prospects Live. Basically had a live draft where people were reacting to picks. GMs were making picks. I enjoyed it. Myself and Kyler Peterson were doing we're basically the Yankee scouting directors, GMs, if you will. We came away with Tanner Burns, which is why I wrote about Tanner Burns on one of the draft profiles. And we came up with it in the third round. We got Caden Wallace, who's a really good young third baseman. Yes, you don't draft for need, but the Yankees kind of could use, with all their middle infield depth, could use some third base. Caden Wallace has some really good bat speed. He's got good exit velocities, and he can play a little bit of third base, play a little outfield too. So that is a prep bat to keep in mind. He's a commit to Arkansas, but around the third round, it would be interesting to see if he's that kind of player. So keep an eye maybe on him. But we had a lot of fun doing this exercise. We'll hopefully maybe talk to some of their top writers, but Prospects Live did a fantastic job. I was happy to be a part of it, and they definitely did a good job there. The other thing I want to mention is I'm working on a project. Hopefully it'll be up, if not this week, next week, where when we talked to Preston Claiborne a few weeks ago, I kind of got the inspiration to talk to Yankees late round draft picks of the past to not only get their draft story, but also I wanted to use this project as a way to encourage draftees that maybe stumble upon our site to give them inspiration to keep their careers going in this tough time for them. So I talked to draft picks from the recent past, guys like Con McDonald, who was a late round pick last year. I've talked to guys like Phil Deal, Preston Claiborne, of course, Matt Witherspoon, who I'm familiar with from him playing at Staten Island a few years ago. I also got to talk to a guy, Mike DeJean. You might not be familiar with him, but he was a late round pick back in 1992. And he was traded to the Rockies in 1995 for Joe Girardi. So I just happened to stumble on that. It was pretty cool. But Mike got back to me. His way of how he became a draftee for the Yankees was interesting. I'm excited for you guys to read his story. It was good to get their inspirational advice for these young draftees and to get their draft stories as well. Nick Goody, who's a good friend of mine, and I've interviewed him a couple times, took part in this project. So definitely when you guys read, I think you're definitely going to enjoy it. So keep an eye out for that in addition to our draft profiles that we'll have on the site. So we're going to be your home for any Yankees draft coverage. You want to stick it here with us. We'll definitely provide all the information you need to know. Some of the other articles up on the site, we have Robert Coles, has how MLB front office may be affected by the shutdown. Matt Terrell, I mentioned, as the Yankee Fans Guide to the Chinese Baseball League. Rob Coles, again, talks about the players being most affected by the halts on games. There's a lot of content on our site still. While the games may not be going on, we've got content for you. So be sure to go to pinstripeprospects.com to continue to follow all the content. Remember that Dugout membership program. You get those 30 days free if you use the promo code I Miss Baseball. So you can follow us on Twitter at Pinstripe Pros, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. Please subscribe to us on iTunes. We want that rating. Hopefully it's 5 stars. We want to get your feedback, what topics you want us to talk about, what guests you want to hear. Again, as I mentioned, we'll try to do a little bit more draft-heavy coverage on the show over the next couple of weeks just to get you ready for that as we get ready for hopefully the start of baseball, but still a little bit of ways from that. Rob, anything you want to add?
Definitely check out the site. One of the perks about the Dugout membership is that there's less advertising, and you don't have to worry about all that stuff. So I highly recommend it, and the money goes to us keeping the lights on. It goes to our operating costs. It goes to us providing content, and our goal is to get at least 300 paying subscribers because that will keep us around for another year. And the more subscribers we get, the more content we can bring. Um, we had to cancel our spring training trip this year, but hopefully we get to do it next year. And our spring training trip is a $12,000 expense that is not covered under that our basic operating costs, and that we've been paying for out of pocket. So it's something that we want to really expand, and we want to expand to do instructional league. We want to expand to do extended spring training. We want to make sure we take care of our riders and staff and provide them a little something for their time. This is not something that we get rich on. In fact, we put a lot of our own money out in covering this organization, and we want to, put forward the best product we can, and we need your help. So please, sign up for a Dugout membership subscription. It is something that is a big help to us. It helps us keep the lights on. It helps us pay the bills, and it helps us bring you the best possible Yankees minor league coverage we can.
You should also follow Rob on Twitter at @rpinster, because you never know what kind of cool videos he puts up or what cool blast from the past and stat on Yankees baseball. So that alone should be worth following Rob on Twitter for. So James, how can they follow you on Twitter with all your golf game stuff and what's going on with your Twitter account?
You can follow me at O'Connell NY on Twitter. Breaking news: there will be a PGA 2K21 video game.
I'm happy for that. I'm excited to play that.
I can't wait. I'm gonna be nasty at it. But yeah, that's how you can follow me on Twitter at O'Connell NY.
You can follow me on Twitter at Rickinator555. 2 followers away from 2,000, so maybe you'll be that 2,000 follower. No, I'm not giving anything away for it, but you can have the satisfaction of being follower 2,000. That should be worth enough for you people. But you can catch my show Kicking with Keeler every week on Full Press Radio. We had the recent episode go up. We talked a little Dak Prescott, Andy Dalton, NFL schedule, all that fun stuff. So we're still having some good conversation. Hopefully we'll do some last day stuff on the show. But you'll get more of my baseball thoughts there as well. But I like to bring it over here. So remember, our draft team is going to keep putting up profiles over the next month. So you'll always hopefully get a new player every few days that you'll get to learn more about. And if the Yankees pick them, you already know about that player. So that alone will make it worth your while to make sure you keep reading up on these players. We'll hopefully have, like I said, some draft experts on the show to break down these players more in depth. I'm excited about this class, and hopefully some of these players, despite what's gone on over the past with this pandemic and changing everything, will still get to live out their dreams because that's the most important thing in this whole process. So from all of us here at Pinstripe Prospects, I'm Ricky Keeler saying hope you have a great rest of your week. Please stay safe, and we'll see you back here again next week.
Later.